For the county, and we're going to start in a few minutes. I just want to give some housekeeping notes here. There are sign-in sheets outside, so if you sign in on that sign-in sheet, we'll make sure you'll continue to get updates in regard to meetings here and other information. The restrooms are outside the corridor. Once you go outside the corridor, turn to your left, and that's where they are. And then, just in case there's some kind of emergency issue, just grab one of our staff members and we'll take you out. And just be aware all chat instructions, all chat is being monitored and recorded, and we will be including that as part of the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kwan. If we can come up and we'll get started. Mr. Grunstein, would you please lead us in the flag salute? Present.
Summer Panino. Present. Angel Ann Flores. Esau Hernandez. Steve White. Amy Starr. Richard Silverman.
That concludes the roll call. We'll now move on to the action item minutes from the 10:13 meeting. Everyone had the opportunity to review those minutes. And do we have a
community at large? I suggested farmer industry because Lodi has a variety in fresh food crops, trees for nuts, olives and cherries, viticulture, rose crops, and dairy. McCulming River. In the proposed maps for county, assembly, senatorial, congressional, my major concern is that with the river continuity to represent same district in our county, assembly, state senator, and Congress. That includes for consideration in all four entities from the 10-year sentence. Please continue to keep McCulming River intact as a key issue. Below are headings to related notes of discovery: Koi, farmer industry, McCulming River continuity, water exports, watermelons to vines, to Dust Bowl towards Port of Oakland, desalination costs, less than concrete, save the river, maybe any southerly conveyance, best be west of Delta River, and duck hunters. Third, we have an email from Julie Martinez that reads as follows. Why is the country club community being split? I don't understand how this is even being considered. Our community as a whole. I have lived off Missouri Road for 31 years now, and I know most of my neighbors because of County Supervisor Miguel Villaputa's community meetings. It was a breath of fresh air to know that the people who lived in the country club area share the same interest and concerns as we work together with one supervisor to make progress. Now we will be split. Me and my neighbor across the street will have two different supervisors. There is no reason. This is ludicrous. Take the politics out. Keep us in District 1. And finally, Chair, we did receive proposed maps submitted by the public. We received a number of them, and the Redistricting Partners consultant will discuss those in today's presentation under publicly submitted maps. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the people who are in the audience. Is there anyone who wishes to address the commission? Anyone at this time wish to address the commission? Okay. We'll move on to RAC member disclosures. And I would like to comment that should report any contacts with the purpose of those influencing the decision-making authority of the committee. For example, locally elected officials, public entities, or lobbyists. So just keep that in mind when you are making our disclosures. And I will, well, I'll have on the next item for the contacts. So is there any disclosures of any kind? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. On October the 14th, I spoke to the board of Central Valley Low-Income Housing. I've just been appointed to that board, and I told them a little bit about redistricting, mentioned the talking points, and gave them this time and date for this meeting. I did the same thing again with the Stockton Strong Group on the 20th of October, and on the 25th, I was in a meeting of the Stockton Democratic Club, and I went through the same song and dance there.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I spoke with Supervisor Tom Patty. Just he reiterated that he had a call from someone from Linden saying, "Hey, we don't want to be a part of District 3." That was the gist of the call, and that was it. I think he was referring to something that we a map we went through last meeting or one of the meetings here today, but that was it.
Probably the same call that I received.
Oh, most likely.
Okay. Okay. All right, we'll move on to community contacts. The one that I will talk about, I'm meeting with, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to disclose that I will be meeting with the Lodi AAUW on November 4th.
And I'm recognizing Ms. Starr because she talked to me before the meeting, and just to announce that she has this upcoming meeting.
Correct.
Go ahead.
I will be meeting with a committee of the Lodi AAUW on November 4th to go through all of the same points that Ms. Baird has indicated she's been presenting.
Thank you very much. I've got a meeting tomorrow with Sunrise Kiwanis. It was quite interesting. The meeting was set, then it was canceled, and they were going to Zoom because of numerous cases of COVID. We've got several members who are in the hospital or who have been in the hospital. One of them is very serious, and unfortunately, while he is not a member, has been quite active in our community. Passed away day before yesterday, and it's very sad that that situation. And unfortunately, his wife is also in the same hospital and in very bad shape. So. Just wanted to pass that on. Anyone else have any other comments on any contacts? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I did with a couple of local elected.
Okay. Sure.
Mike Rastusha. And.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we are going to go into item 8, the publicly submitted maps. Mr. Chris Chafee. Mr. Chafee? And while you're getting ready, I will not look to the right or left this time to see who's got anything in their monitors. Mine's black. I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me back. Going to have a little repetition at the start. I always like to go over what I'm going to talk about. First thing is just the Fair Maps Act criteria that we've seen every time. I just want to put that up in front of you again. We'll go through the public map submissions that have been submitted since our last meeting. And then we'll go through, I have 3 draft plans because I keep thinking that A2 smooth and B2 smooth are kind of like a part of the same, but it's really 5 maps. So the slide is wrong, I'm sorry. And then we'll just go through next steps, what we need to do next. So the Fair Maps criteria, you probably can recite this easily. But there's 5 that we need to follow. Relatively equal size, people, not citizens. We don't want any non-contiguous districts, no islands or hopping and skipping around. We want to maintain communities of interest. That's the biggest thing with Fair Maps Act, right? That's why we've done all the outreach meetings and had this very deliberate public process. The 4th criteria, this is especially important for counties, is following those cities and census designated places. And I'm ecstatic to be where we are today, where almost every map has every city hole in the county in a district. And the 5th issue is that we want the districts to be compact in both appearance and function. So all of the maps that are coming forward follow these Fair Maps criteria and really look and are built from community of interest testimony. And again, this meeting really is to provide you these draft maps, go through them, and then really get both your input and the community's input on what changes need to be made. possibly pass a couple maps for the next hearing for recommendations, so basically whittle down these 5. And then if there isn't a map permutation presented, we can talk about providing a new map, but I think we're kind of down the right path already. So then these are just the themes of the communities of interest that we really have talked through a lot. Uniting Tracy and Mountain House, really respecting the rural and the agricultural areas. As Glenn pointed out, that's the #1 thing that came out of the poll, and I think we do that in pretty much all of these plans you'll see tonight. Respecting the Delta and the important water issues, another really high important thing from the poll. And then knowing that Stockton is split, making sure that that we're using streets or school district lines or something that makes sense from the resident standpoint. Don't split Manteca. That was pretty specific, right, Mr. Chair? And then I think a great comment that was made last time was making sure we unify the port in one district so that can be a central point for whoever represents that district. So now I just want to go through the maps that have been submitted, starting with the PE map that was submitted on the night of our last meeting, I think, or the day of our last meeting. But again, this is a plan that's similar in a lot of ways to the maps you'll see tonight, where you have 2 Stockton-based districts. You have Mountain House and Lathrop and Tracy connected, and then you have the 2 splits, right? This map splits the rural areas into 2 east-west districts, a little differently than a lot of the maps you have before you. But again, its total deviation is 2.4%. And it's the district with the highest Latino population meets our mark at 48.7. And if there's any maps that you want to jump into and talk through more, please stop me and we can do that. Then there's the Baby Bear VRA district. Again, this one has a very low deviation of only 0.3%. It meets the mark for our Latino district at 49.1. But if you look at this district, this is similar in some ways to old Plan C, where we're splitting the district or the Delta into 3 districts. But you still have a lot of the same similarities, where you've got the Magenta district with Tracy, Mountain House, and Lathrop. You've got the Teal district that's Manteca, Hole with French Camp. And then you've got the 7 rural district. And then the northern district in Stockton tax on the Delta. That's really the biggest difference between this one and the current, or the Plan D that we'll be discussing in a minute. We've got this map, again, 4% total deviation, so it's fine. The district with the highest Latino CVAP is 48.5. Which is right at where it needs to be. I think it needs to actually grow by 2.2%, which is doable with some, slight changes. You have a similar architecture to the PE map, where, but this time you have the Delta in 2 districts, and the Teal district is a little bit more compact and has a little more of Stockton. You can see it stretches from the west side of Stockton all the way around to the east side. Here's another map. This one, I think it splits a lot of cities, as you can see. It's 4.5% total deviation. It's district with the highest. The Latino district's a little bit low, only at 47. But what it does is it splits Lathrop and Manteca, and does that southern rural district that we've seen done before, linking Tracy to Ripon and Escalon. It also puts Mountain House with Lathrop and not with Tracy, which we have heard the opposite in a lot of the testimony. You still also have that large rural agricultural-based district in the north. Part of the 7 is here, just excluding Escalon. And then we have a series of 4 maps. The B4 clan, I don't know what that stands for, but you'll see 4 of them. And the parentheses give you a hint on the changes. So in this map, Murata is in D3, which is the teal district, and Ripon is in the lime green district. All of these maps will show the 49.5% high for the Latino district. Those don't change. Really, the only ones that are changing are District 3 and 4, the 2 green, the teal and the lime green. And the deviations are all very low. So this is the first version. It's a 1.1% deviation. This is the second variation, where Murata is now in District 4, so it's moved up to be with Lodi, and Ripon is now in the teal district, so it's moved in to be with Manteca. Sorry, it's at 2.2%. This is the highest deviation of the 4. This district has a really low deviation of 0.7%, and now both Murata and Ripon have been unified and put in with the Lodi Ag District. And the final version of this grouping, at total deviation of 1.3%, you now have Murata and Ripon unified in the, looks like, I think this is the wrong map, I'm sorry. This should show Murata and Ripon both in the teal district. But it's basically showing that you can have any combination of those small area, well, one's a city, one's an area, in 3 or 4, with and being fine with the deviations. Okay, so those are the public maps that we've gotten since we last met. And I just want to show the current lines and remind us where we stand. So our total deviation is at is too high. It's at 20. Sorry, I usually have this right in front of me, but it's at 21.7%. So we're out of deviation. That's because of the imbalance in the growth of the county, and that's why we're here today. So without further ado, here's Plan A2. Now, this is a variation on Plan A that we saw last time. It's built from a publicly submitted map, and the biggest changes really are moving Lockford into District 4 and splitting the delta between District 2 and 5. In the prior map, you can see that the delta is split into thirds, right? One part into District 2, part into District 5, and part into District 4. And now, basically, you have it's District 4 and District 5 that have the delta in it, as we discussed. So District 5 has grown a little bit to include the delta from an area standpoint, but I think it only picked up like 2,200 people. District 4 also picked up Lockford to be associated with in the Lodi district in District 4, and everything else remained the same. So you've got Manteca Hole with French Camp, Ripon, and Escalon. You have the Mountain House, Tracy, Lathrop, Hole in District 5. You have the 2 Stockton districts. And in this one, Murata is in with District 4. Here you can see the current lines. There are a lot of changes in some of the rural areas. Of course, District 5 has come out of Manteca to allow to be whole. And there are changes, of course, in how the districts split Stockton. I think the other thing to point out with this district is the hand, or I don't know, the Stockton hand. That's what I've been calling it. So that is the city limit or the city border. That's why it's included in this district. And from comments, we we were asked, well, what would happen if you chopped it off and made it so that you didn't have that strange appendage? So that's what you get. I'm just going to jump ahead. In Plan A2, we call the A2 smooth. And what's interesting is there's one person in that appendage. There's like one, it's very uninhabited. It doesn't change the CVAP. The CVAP, if you look between A2 and A2 smooth, it's at 53%. I want to make sure. 50.3%, excuse me, I misspoke. But the CVAPs stay the same, and that's the only change between A2 and A2 smooth is removing that appendage. The same comes forward. So then I guess I did not go through the total deviation of this plan. Both the A2s have, are on the higher end of our total deviation. This one's at 9.3%. So we're still under 10. It's a legal plan, but it's right at the top end. So then for the B2 plan, it was funny when I went back through my notes from last time. I'm like, basically you asked for B to look more like A, right? And I feel like the architecture is getting very similar. And so with this plan, we unite Tracy and Mountain House, which wasn't true before. We move Ripon and Escalon into District 3, and we unify Manteca, which is very similar to A2. So here's where we started from, and you can see that we made a lot of changes by following the statements and the comments from last time. And I think the biggest difference between this plan and A2 is the northern border of District 2. I think that moves up to 8 Mile Road in this version. And again, you have Murata in with District 4, and you have the same city combinations that we had in A2. There aren't all the cities are whole and in a district. You also have Lockford and Victor with Lodi again in District 4. And again, you see that appendage in District 1, and the only difference between this plan and B2 smooth is that change, the smoothing of the line of Stockton.
Could you just go back to that map just before the colored map?
This one?
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where we started. If you remember, B was like, it had
House.
Yeah, it was and basically we changed the architecture to look a lot more like A.
So I think I see one difference between A2 and B2 based on the paper version that we have here, which is in B2, it looks like the country club area was split. The public comment has me tuned into that area, yeah. And while we might want to talk more about where those boundaries are, but that is a difference that I noticed in here.
You're right. So, and if think about how best to describe this. Basically, there's no way to zoom in, is there? So one of the biggest differences is you can see that small, like the edge of District 1 and 2. That, I believe, separates Country Club, right? And so we would need to look, and that's one thing we could do, right, is we would take whichever one splits Country Club the least of these two plans and then try to unify it in the next version for the next meeting, looking at Country Club. And then I think one well, it might come forward and when we start talking about D, but where Murata is, right? Like that's another difference with Plan D than these maps. In A2 and B2, Murata is always with Lodi and in the Northern District. In the Plan D, okay, which I think I'll hop to, if that's okay. So Plan D really came forward because there was a lot of discussion about using the cores, looking back at the cores of the current districts and providing an option that looked at those the cores and kind of just provided the RAC with another map option because B2 and A2 are so similar. We wanted to create some variation, and that had been discussed a lot in the public comments and in the map submissions. So we're calling this draft Plan D. And you can see with D, I think the biggest difference between this construction and the A2, B2 version is District 4's, its size, right? Its territory grows by leaps and bounds, and it picks up Escalon and Ripon, which were in District 3 in the other maps. And to do that, District 3 picks up more of Stockton for population balancing, and you can see that the line of District 2 moves a little bit north, or slightly. But those are like I think the biggest variations in the map. We have that reintroduction of the 7 shaped rural district in District 4, where Lodi goes all the way south to the border, the county border.
Mr. Chaffee, just to, because if I'm looking at the paper, I don't have, where's that D1 compact? Or the lease?
Lease change, sorry.
Lease
It's
change.
lease change in your packets.
But I just wanted to make sure.
And I just think for naming conventions, we're going to use Plan D. It's a new kind of map variation, so that they're all treated kind of the same naming convention. But I think, as some have pointed out, you can see District 2, its northern border is a straight line. It doesn't dip on the northeast corner to move Murata into District 4, like we have in A2 and B2. And I think the great thing about Plan D is its total deviation, I believe, is at 1.3%. Just make sure. Yeah, it's 1.3%. So you can make a lot of changes if you'd like with Plan D. If there are things you don't like, I mean, we can't totally change all the lines, right? But we can do a Murata movement, or if you want to move Waterloo into 4, or some of the smaller CSDs that are in the districts. And again, I think we can also, from the public comment and from the discussion, we can also look at the country club area and make sure that it's whole in a district, so that we can fix that issue.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I apologize. I haven't got hiccups in 15 years. Apparently, it's the night for it. As far as the country club area, grew up there, born and raised. Upward mobility from a parent working hard moved me to eventually to Lincoln Unified, and then to Brookside, and very similar communities, frankly. And we're talking little leagues and people that play together and grow up together. I've seen a couple of maps where they're kind of split up, but I do think that we should kind of work to keep those together if possible. It's a very minor thing,
Yeah.
but it's just something
And I think it's easily done. I think it's more about maybe an error in map construction, because it's not
a big deal.
it.
It's like levy. You grow up on a levee, you live on a levee. It's kind of the same thing no matter where you grow up. So it's a very similar. I know Steve White, who's an alternate over there, kind of very similar, grew up in both areas as well. Just something to think about.
Yeah.
Chris, I want to thank you, take this opportunity with the mic to thank you for the additional information that you added, that largely at my request, the heat map and some of the inclusion of the compactness details in the sheets that is for the smaller maps that were provided to the public. I think that's very useful information. I apologize if it was a lot of work to just make me think that it was useful. It did help me actually to think about things. The question I have tonight about the Plan D is that I like it quite a bit. I think there are things to like about it. I am a big fan of the Plans A and Plans B model that we came up with, and I think this is a novel, kind of different approach. My only concern is that the CVAP in District 1 here, it may be symbolic, it may be less important from a practical standpoint, but I don't like seeing it at 49.9 when we have maps that have it above 50. And again, it's 0.1%. Is it really meaningfully that different? But I think I wouldn't mind us seeing if we could maybe take Plan D, see if there was a way to make very small changes to the existing Plan D where we just bump it up just so that we're presenting something to the board that at least has one district, because it's possible, with a 50% or above for this particular legal requirement that we have. We just get it over that little line.
Yeah, and I think because we have that deviation that we can play with, that I don't think that would be a huge issue. I think one of the things you might see is the northeastern part of District 1. You can see how it has kind of like a nose that comes out. That might get removed from D1 and moved over into D3 in this construction to push the CVAP a little higher.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Ms. Nybeck.
I'd like to provide also an appreciation of the added information you provided, Chris. And I'm looking at the census block population heat map. And what I see is what looks like a significant data error, and I don't know if that is something that would come back to haunt us later. But if you go on the wonderful heat map, go south of the word Waterloo, and there is a very deep red census block that is one of the most dense population counts. And granted, it's large. I live near there, and I've never seen that dense neighborhood.
So one of the things about
and maybe it's just an error in creating the heat map, and so we shouldn't worry about it. But I just want to make sure that we've got accurate data that they provided us. And if there's a mistake in it, haunt us later.
I mean, I think the populations in the atlases that you've been provided and the presentation, we've done Flow Analytics, who's working with us on to help map, and Redistricting Partners. We've both been checking these plans and making sure that our numbers are the same. So we're getting similar numbers. I think sometimes when you do heat maps, there can be small aberrations. We can look into it, but
I'll go for a drive through that neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's out near Linden, correct?
Yeah, I actually live in Waterloo.
Okay. Continue on, please.
Oh, sure. So Plan D, it is preserving cores of the current districts. You can see, though, that we have made changes. It's not like we're just adjusting for population. We're also, with this plan, really listening to the community of interest testimony about keeping all the cities whole, preserving and protecting the Delta, and and everything we've kind of talked through. It's just it's like slightly different configuration that we thought we'd want to have you see, because it reintroduces District 4 more like it is now. Again, you can see, though, that the deviation is at 1.3%. So we do have the wiggle room to maybe move Murata into District 4 if that's of interest. We can look at Country Club as well, make sure that it's unified. And actually, let me just finish, and then we can open back up. So we have these 3 plans in front of us. We also have all the public maps that have been submitted. And I think the biggest thing in this meeting is really to drill down on one of these plans or a couple of these plans, provide like kind of specific or overarching changes you'd like made, so that we can, in the next meeting when we're recommending a map to the board, you have almost exactly what you want to recommend next week, or sorry, not next week, next meeting. So I think, yeah, so the timeline, today's the 27th. I'm off, so sorry. I'm like, it's right there it's staring me in the face. So we'll be coming back again on November 10th to do that recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. And you can do 1 plan, you can do 2 plans, you can do, well, I'm not going to go any higher, 3 plans, but nothing crazy, I hope. Yeah, so that's the rest of the timeline. And really, for that November 10th meeting, we want to recommend a couple plans to the board and have a good testimony for Mr. DeBrum to give and walk through with the board later in November.
Excellent. That it? Go to Mr. Mooney and then.
Yeah, I got a question. The publicly submitted maps that you presented to us, said those were the ones that were submitted since our last meeting. What about all the public maps that were put up there previous to that?
So we went through them last 2 weeks ago, right before I presented.
Go through all the public maps last time.
I thought we went through most of them. I'm sorry if I misspoke. Is there a specific map you'd like to be put forward?
Oh, I've never seen you present one that I had put on there myself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, which was like a month ago I put it on there.
Okay.
And I've never seen you put it up there or anybody else to look at. So, if you see it on the website, it's fine. But, I just kind of, as a group, you're putting all this stuff to us. Okay, here's what I'm recommending, but you need to me, it should all be put out there for us to pick ones and then you alter them.
Okay. No, you're not wrong. I'm sorry that I thought I had.
Glenn emailed me and asked me the number of the map that I had submitted, and I sent it back to him. He said thank you, and I still haven't seen it.
I can pull that up, and it's my error. I thought I had included it in this presentation, Mr. Mooney, and I can pull it up right now.
I can say, so what about any others that were previous that we haven't seen? You see where I'm coming from?
No, I do.
You're sitting here, like you came into that meeting, the last meeting, here's 3 maps to look at. Well, what about all the others? We basically concentrated on those 3 maps. We didn't look at all the other maps that had been submitted.
Okay, I thought we went through about 15 publicly submitted maps at the last meeting before the drafts. So I'm sorry.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying you didn't take input from us of which maps to look at as much as you did presenting us the 3 to look at.
So,
give me a moment. I'll look up the plan ID and we can pull that up.
Yeah.
Live.
Ms. Baird, and then we'll come back.
Oh, it's my turn? Okay. I just wanted to put in a plug for Plan D. I like it. I think it works well. I agree with keeping Country Club whole, and I would like to have somebody take a look at if we could get more of Stockton into District 2 so that as much of Stockton as possible is in either 1 or 2. But otherwise, I like Plan D a lot.
Mr. Oster, then we'll go to this side, Ms. Panino, and then Mr. Bronsky.
Chris, I just want to clarify something that Commissioner Mooney is asking about. It was my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because this was my assumption as well, that you had taken the broad variety of publicly submitted maps and that you had, again, this is my recollection, you had chosen representatives that reflected concepts. In other words, you had kind of collated together, like there were maybe 6 maps represented by this map that you're presenting to the committee 2 weeks ago, and there was a grouping of maps. And that's how I had interpreted the totality of the publicly submitted maps being presented to us.
Yeah, I think that's what I tried to do, because I feel like I think there are over 30 maps presented, in Districtor. And one of the things with all of the A, B, and C's from last cycle or last meeting was I tried to show the schools of maps that had come forward. So Plan B was a different architecture than we'd seen, right, in a lot of other maps. But we've seen it in 4 or 5 submissions. So we kind of keyed on 49596 as that themed map, and then basically made changes because of the VRA issue. And I think that's one thing and one reason we didn't take just a public map and make it a draft map, because we had to make that change for District 1 to be compliant with the Federal Voting Rights Act. And we didn't want to provide the commission with maps that were not passable and not legal. We did the same thing with both Plan A and Plan C, where we had the different kind of permutations and architectures that we've seen in a lot of the maps that are, again, legally compliant. So I wanted to pull up Mr. Mooney's map. This is, you can see, is a well-balanced plan at 0.9%. Max deviation, I think it's probably slightly higher than that overall. You can see that this is similar in a lot of ways to, I think, Plan C, and actually very similar to the PE map that we started with tonight, where you have a northern Stockton district, southern Stockton district, and then 3 kind of more rural ag-based districts. Well, 2 at least. You have the Lodi district in Teal that has the northern Delta and northern Stockton, and then you have the Tracy, Lathrop, Mountain House district in the magenta. And then you have the lime green district of Dogtown all the way south, including Manteca Hole, Ripon, and Escalon. So this is another map, an architecture that we've seen a lot of. I just wanted to check. And the District 1, the blue district, is at 48% Latino CVAP. So this is another plan that would comply both with total deviation and for that double check of the Latino CVAP district.
Here. Yeah. You go to Ms. Panino first. Just move right down the lane. Go ahead. All right.
Well, look, it's not a bad map, and I think eventually we got to narrow it down.
Because I just realized.
Well, go ahead and go first. I'll wait.
Fucking thing since The 15th of September?
What?
That wasn't me.
Oh.
The 15th of September, that was not me. I'll go now.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I think the chair has to recognize me.
No, Mr. Grunsky, I'd already recognized him.
He said, wait, don't put me on the spot. Look, if we're narrowing down maps, I think we got some good maps. Eventually, we're going to have to narrow some things down and correct those. I really believe this is not a bad map. This map makes some sense. I think it should be included for discussion. It's got a lot of things that we've seen, but eventually we're going to have to narrow some things down, right? So is this the second to last meeting we're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. So what are we going to have? A best of 5? Are we going to have a best of 4? What are we going to do? Because we can't just go through everything submitted. I mean, like I said, I like this map, but eventually, how do we get to, Chair, my question is, how do we get to this point where we're choosing 1 of 5 to submit?
We're very close.
Okay.
We're very close.
So is that with some, so you go back and you.
So I think ideally, if you wanted to, we could go through each of the maps that's before you, and we could talk through any changes you would like to be seen for the next meeting. You could also take like a public submission like this and say, can you make this a draft map to be seen next meeting to be discussed as well. Okay. I think those and you know, it doesn't have to be this one. It can be any of the ones on District Chair, and I have the site live now, so I can move to that if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm deferring to you. It doesn't look a bad map at first glance, but yeah, eventually I think we got to narrow it down and get to what we're doing.
I agree.
Right?
Ms. Pinino?
Can we go back to map D?
Sure.
And I wanted to echo what Ann had mentioned before of keeping the majority of Stockton whole. And I think on map D and on, I think, a few of the maps, District 4 bleeds into North Stockton. And I don't know if that was because the school district lines, but I would like to see more of North Stockton in District 2. And, edit of this, of grabbing Murata.
Hang on 1 second. Whoever's online, could you please mute yourself, please? Thank you. Continue on.
And I would like to see some of Murata in District 4 instead.
The trade, do that trade.
I know that some people had mentioned that the school district is a big deal. To me, it's a separate entity. School district lines are school district lines. I don't see a correlation necessarily. Anything, I think kids that go to Bear Creek do life in Stockton more than they do life in Lodi. But Murata is also Lodi Unified, and kids in Lodi play sports in Murata. So to me, that correlation fits better than the school district line in North Stockton.
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Morwitt. Mr. Grunsky?
Yeah, just something else to keep in consideration. I know we're getting late in the ballgame, but the reclamation districts sticking together in as districts as much as possible. The levee districts, a lot of commonality between those. They've been split up. West of I-5 is a massive flood zone. I'd like to see that kept as much together as possible. I haven't seen a map that said that. It's just something that I've talked to people out on the islands, and it is a lot of similarities, but also, again, the reclamation districts, they cross 3 or 4 districts in some cases. Not ideal. They should have a little better voice, frankly.
Okay. So any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Brunsky, at our last meeting, you discussed the need to try to keep the delta as whole as possible. And I noticed that all of the maps we're looking at today, A2, have a division at the same place. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on how well that works for sense of integration that's needed in the Delta.
Well, our alternate, Steve White, who works in commercial real estate, we know as much as anybody. So we're talking about literally this map we're looking at right now cuts off marinas, right? So marinas are part of the Delta, right? So they're in that business. So they literally will have no voice. So these people that are doing business in our county are in, you know, the middle of Stockton districts. So do we carve them out individually to make them a part of the Delta districts? You know, that's the question. So, you know, Village Marina, all these marinas, right? So you're talking about, we had at some point, the Planning Commission, Director Kwong could speak to this, but we had at some point, we were trying to do basically some type of tourism plan for the Delta as well. They're separated. West of I-5, again, is like the flood zone, reclamation districts, if you follow those lines. I don't know how much it represents at the moment, but these maps are really close. I've seen a ton of good maps. I mean, really, I think everyone up here, you know, we're trying to get ag supported. We're trying to get the water situation. There's some very solid maps up here. You know, there really is. Like, this is frankly, this is better than what I feel we got as far as representation, as far as all of us in the ag community, or all of us in general of what this valley represents, so in this county.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to talk about Stockton a little bit in the context of the Map D. I really like Map D, and I feel that it treats the city of Stockton well, though recognizing North Stockton is cut off, and perhaps more of North Stockton could be up in District 4. No, in District 2, if Murata is moved up to 4, though not that many people. But by the way, I do think Murata needs to be in District 4. What I like is it looks as if the country club district is kept whole. Can we talk for a moment about how that district should be defined? I would have thought it would be west of Pershing, and it looks as if it cuts in a little bit. So are you able to?
Yeah. So this is the least. Oh, this is the least. This is Plan D in Districtor. So let's see. So I think it's a question of defining country club. This blue district, District 1, currently you can see includes, I believe, all of country club. This area here might.
If you come over towards the center more, where the line goes up, cuts off, goes up Pershing partway, and then it cuts across Monterey Street or something, or right there. Okay, if you right there, the main line that is starting up is Pershing. East Stag Memorial Stadium there.
Yeah, so
You're cutting off this island of Country Club.
so this here,
Yes,
Yeah.
Should add that.
Yeah, I
to
would look,
move
that's part of Country Club.
Yeah, it is.
to move district. Yeah, so I mean, I think you can see the census designated place is a little bit smaller than how we
Interesting.
the description, right? You can see that it uses Mission Road, it looks like, and not Pershing. So I think we can move. This is, but I think that's noted, and I think what we can do is we can make sure that we use the Pershing line to unify Country Club in whichever in whichever plan you guys go push for, move forward with for next week or next meeting.
excellent. And then in the same theme of, I know we're getting into details, maybe that's because we all really like this,
Yeah.
but can we look at the division between the north and south division through downtown? I just want to make sure that where it's divided makes sense, and that it's not in the midst of the business district, where I would think it wouldn't be good to split up the business district of downtown
I just
Stockton.
made. Sorry. It uses Elm as the.
Elm?
Here, just give me 1 second.
Harding might make more sense.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, I think you're right. Let me just zoom in here.
Give me a break.
Let me get it off the cursor.
Here's Alpine.
Maybe it does use Harding. You're right. That's what I should do. I'm gonna go back and reload the page.
Try again. Jeez. It's too hard.
No.
Harding.
I think that there's I would recommend the division between the north and the south being along Harding, just a couple blocks off of where.
Actually, it's using Harding.
Oh, it is
There it
Harding.
is.
Yeah, it's Harding. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There it is.
Elm was coming up in the larger
Okay.
blow up, so it's Harding and then
Much more sense. Yeah,
And
but
Pershing.
Then Pershing should go all the way. It should go
yeah.
all the way
So
up.
so if we unify Country Club along Pershing,
Yeah.
that would create that, and then it'd go up to the Calaveras River.
Yeah.
And then it would go across using Harding as the northern border.
What's that?
And then I think this is
Is that Wilson?
yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the Stocktonians coming out of the woodworks all of a sudden. All of a sudden, we got
Yeah, it's Wilson.
some folks. Yeah,
That's
I
Wilson
like it.
Way. Yeah, that makes sense.
Stocktonians.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So are there any other borders you want to look at?
Oh,
That's good.
Yes.
Where is Sharp Army Depot in this map? Sharp.
Okay.
But I
Armory.
can't tell on this map here.
Like it'd be in District 5.
Yeah, south.
Okay. Yeah. Let's zoom in.
Sharp would be in District 5.
I think it's in 5, but I'd have
It's in this teal district. No?
No.
Oh, it's by I-5.
No, you're in Manteca.
Yeah, you're in Manteca. You don't want to be in Manteca.
Got to go towards I-5.
There's
Just need to have cities.
Your left,
My left? Okay.
your
your
other
other
left.
left. Keep going.
Follow the,
Keep going.
Okay. Go this way.
there it says Roth Road, where that,
Yeah.
right there? Okay. Sharp Depot's south of Roth Road.
That's in 5.
It
Yep.
was in 5.
Yep.
Chris, can we also look at the northern boundary of District 2, the northern part of Stockton, where 2 leads into the northern?
Boy.
Yeah, you must.
And I think this is where if you want to unify Murata or move Murata, this is where the line would change.
And run Stockton up to 8 Mile?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not 8 Mile. Let's see. Because this is 8 miles there.
No, that's Pixley.
Oh, you
Moving
Stockton
the
to
line up
eight,
to
8 Mile. Okay.
because,
And then
I know
taking,
people who live there and they think they live in Stockton.
okay.
They're right.
That population change there would throw you way over.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Spanos land, have we?
I have a question. So as we proceed forward, do you want this in the form of a motion or by consensus or?
Well, what I was thinking is I could read back the changes that have been provided to date on D, and then if you wanted to, you could move that, make that as a motion. That.
Okay.
So the 5 changes I have is to unify Country Club to Pershing, to increase the Latino CVAP of D1 to over 50%, to move more of Stockton into D2, and I think that's kind of combined with the 8 Mile, using the 8 Mile as the northern border of District 2, and then moving Murata into District 4.
Yes, go ahead. Yes,
For a clarification of how do we define Murata?
Sure.
My sense is that the Murata with its unique identity is to the east of 99.
Yeah.
And I think one thing we could do in the next meeting is I could be ready to show you in Maptitude these so we can make sure the lines are exactly right. And if we need to move a census block or a census block group, we can. So we can have a recommended plan that meets all of the criteria before you guys break for the night.
Okay. What I was looking for, and the reason I asked, is by consensus to accept map D with the changes that you have been provided. And then we come back and we start tweaking those, because there's going to be some other things in here that we want to see ultimately take place. Whether it's moving Murata into another district, which you already have, making a change, then you're going to have to make some changes on the south end with Manteca. If we start making changes with Murata or some of the other areas, we'll have to pick up someplace, either going east or picking up Ripon or doing something in order to get that in the district.
I think, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, your familiarity with the population density in these areas, do you believe that if we move the current District 2 north to 8 Mile and pick up that population away from the northern district, I'm forgetting the number of it, and then we swapped that with Murata, so basically we're moving that strip between the Slough and 8 Mile up, Murata into 2 and then Murata in, that exchange might avoid what he's suggesting?
I mean, I think you're going to have a larger deviation than 1.3%, but I think it's possible. There's 1,000. It's huge. So I don't.
What is he,
maybe not. Maybe not.
There's a lot.
But I think this is what I can promise, though, is I can provide options, right? If you can go to 8 Mile Road. In the northwest or in the central or right, we can look at those lines and you can see the different variations, because I think that's really where you want to get into in our last meeting, right, is getting into where do you want that line to be, and that's where I think Maptitude comes into play, where we can actually do, it's much like Districtor, but it's a little bit more easy for me to control, and I can push out a shapefile that we can work with the county and provide to the supervisors easily. And so I'll be prepared to do that at our next meeting, and we can really explore this movement of District 2 north to 8 Mile in Plan D and the Murata swap. And I can provide different variations so that you'll see the maps prior to the meeting. So maybe you can say, I like this one, or I like that one, If that makes sense.
Yeah. Question, Chair? Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Morwitt and Ms. Ibeck. Mr. Grunsky.
So what we're trying to say is we're looking at using map D, kind of a consensus tonight on map D, but that doesn't mean that's the D as we see it tonight.
Right.
But that would bring it back the next meeting, and then you could, now would you want this input only at the public meeting now, or would you like us to email as well, or would you prefer it to be?
I mean, I think it'd be best if you have other changes you like made for the variations of D for the next meeting, to talk them through now. And I think also if,
I agree with that.
Not just D, but if you want to talk about A2 or B2, if there's changes in those maps that you'd like made, and we can bring those variations forward the next meeting as well.
But then we're not looking for one map to work with and just make deviations. You're saying you'd like to have maybe up to 3 maps?
Well, no, I'm just saying I'm open to whatever the commission wants to go forward with. I don't want to constrain it. That's it.
Okay, so just for conversation purposes right now, I like D. I've already said that, but I'd like to hear from everybody else. And then, but I obviously this wouldn't be in stone. This is just like you say. This would be just a working product,
Right.
to go forward.
Fully.
So for that being discussion, I'm in favor of that.
Ms. Ibeck and then Mr. Grunsky. Mr. Kwong.
So Chair, committee members, so we've got a little bit of time. So if we can indulge you, I'm actually suggesting we fly through the changes right now and see what it looks like. I think the exercise is worth it. We might have to spend some time on it. So what I'm suggesting, Chris, is that we actually make some of these changes so you can see the variations in the numbers. Promise we won't keep you here till 9, but but I want to be able to. We've got at least 50 minutes, and it's worthwhile probably to make some of those changes, so then you can formulate some more opinions for the changes that we can make for the subsequent meeting.
And that'll be fine. And then we're going to go into Ms. Ibeck right now, and then Mr. Grunsky.
Thank you, Chair.
In the spirit of the changes that we're requesting, there might be less population in District 3 of Plan D. To make the adjustments up around the northern part of Stockton, and hence District 3 might need a greater population. And so there'd be a temptation to integrate Ripon into District 3. So I would like to pose that question to my colleagues here on the committee. Is that good, bad, neutral? And in fact, in that spirit, maybe we should also talk about Escalon, just so that we have the greatest flexibility as we look at lines in denser population centers around Stockton.
Mr. Grunsky.
Yeah, I just want to make sure these maps are taking into consideration what we saw last meeting as well, correct? Okay, so this is kind of, we're moving in the forward direction of a final 2-3 maps. I do agree with Mr. Morowitz. I would like to tweak a final 3, a final 2, anything like that. But I think we need some options. And then also, again, these seem very close. I think if we can keep some of these groups, Lincoln Village West, Brookside, Country Club, together in the Stockton region, that's west of I-5, I think, just me personally talking, I think we're close. But I do want a couple options, like Mr. Morowitz said as well.
I just wanted to respond to Ms. Ibeck's, to Commissioner Ibeck's comment. Ripon is 16,000 people. If we moved it out of 4, I feel like it's just so massive relative to the current deviations in this Plan D. It's constructed to be like numerically balanced to the point where if you look at the little blue table at the top of the page for the over-under are in the hundreds of people between the 5 districts, except for District 4, which is the one that's the most over, and it's 1,000 people. I just can't imagine any scenario where it wouldn't blow up the map if we moved Ripon from District 4 to District 3. It seems, and I would ask for feedback to see if I'm wrong about that. It seems almost like it wouldn't be possible. But I like the idea because I'm the one who last meeting really, I feel like Manteca, Ripon, and Escalon should be together. That's my main criticism of this map. I love this map. I actually really like a lot of things about it. My only thing I don't like about it is the fact that Escalon, Ripon, and Manteca are completely in 2 different districts. And so I want to go with you on that. So I checked. And can you even do it? I don't know.
Question,
Yes.
I just, while you were talking, I did the same thing. We have 15,000 people in Ripon, you have 7,500 in Escalon. Looks like a big map, a lot of empty space. So I'd like to see those changes, what changes people want, then see what we have left. As, or not Waterloo, excuse me, Marana,
Right.
see what that does, see what we can do, because like I say, I have to agree, I agree. 15,000 people, you just can't throw them in there.
Well,
On this map.
and that's why, honestly, I had mentioned it earlier, because moving, you're starting to talk about moving to north, and you talked about moving Marata out, then you start, okay, you have to start looking at the piece of the puzzle. So you draw the line east, what do you pick up? Do you pick up anything, in Ripon? Here again, I'd love to keep Ripon as whole as possible as a community in one district. I mean, we've done that with every other community, and so I don't think it would be appropriate to single them out and cut them in half. But I think that's my sole purpose. My earlier comment was to say, okay, because listening to everyone here on the dais, we've got a plan right here in D. We're going to, just so you know, I'm not allowing any public comment until we get down to public comment again, okay? And then you'll have your time. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
So is it possible to leave District 5 a little short on population considering they're growing so much? I mean, on the Planning Commission, we've approved massive amounts of projects in the past 2 years I've been on there. I mean, they are the big growth. Right now, they're going to be the big growth for the next 10 years. I think that's a question for the consultant here.
Oh, between Mountain House?
Just in general, as far as District 5, I mean, we're trying to make these percentages right. And I mean, I think I approved 2,000 homes or something the other day on last Thursday. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all. I mean, the past 2 years, I'm talking thousands of homes. Director Kwon would know more than me, but thousands of homes plus the ADUs, okay? Plus the ADUs, plus the back units that we're talking about now with the Assembly Bill 9 and 10, where you can now put 4 units on. They're approving, we're approving all of those. We have no choice. Can we leave that short with the prediction that that's where the population's going?
So I actually have Maptitude ready with District D up. And I was just playing with, I was moving, yeah. So if we move and use 8 Mile Road, this isn't all of it. That would move 11,652 people north into district, or south really, into District 2. And you can see that would overpopulate District 2 by 7%. And that's not going all the way across, right? Because I'm leaving out this portion. And I mean, technically this would work because the other deviations are so low. But it's really overpopulating one district, right? And so
you need to take that part of Country Club off of District 2, and that would change that a whole bunch, because there's pretty good population in that little corner of Country Club.
And give it to one?
yeah, and I think with doing both, right? It might.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that you need.
Actually, that's just
What he said.
That's part of the picture is if you're going to take that piece of Country Club and put it back into one that's in 2.
Yeah.
That northeast corner of Country Club's about 2,300 people.
Yeah, I'm just pretty good chunk of people there.
Just as long as it's in one of the 2 Stockton districts.
Okay.
That may be the best we can do.
Then we want to, this here.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. This is why we don't do a lot of live drawing. So this would move for District 1, but we need to make sure about its Latino CVAP, and that it still it works. Oh, yeah.
If I may, through the chair, Commissioner Grunsky raised a question about population and the fact that, in fact, mountain houses are currently being approved or population is currently changing. And when we do redistricting, that population is locked as of the date of the census. And we're going to use that as a steady. So as we move forward, that number is like gravity. It's locked in, even though we know, right, we're approving new houses in certain areas that will continue to grow probably similarly to the growth pattern we've seen prior to the census, but we're also losing population. So we just use that census. That's our obligation to meet, even though we know things are increasing and decreasing in population. So does that answer your question in regards to the question you posed on Mountain House and sort of what we're seeing in District 5?
It does, but if we were going to deviate, we would deviate there. So if there's a deviation that we could go to the max, that would be the district we'd want to do it in. That would be the area we want to do it. Is that correct? Would that be legal?
I think that's an insightful way to look at what we know about our community. Absolutely. And that's, in fact, partly why we have RACs, right? Because you know the community, and so you can actually utilize the tools in that exact way. So I think that's an insightful observation about that. I just want to make sure the population understanding was clear. Yeah.
Yeah, so my suggestion, if we're going to leave anywhere shy, we would leave over there shy just because we know what's going to happen in the next few years. And to the legal limit, all within the course of the law, or county council, who I lean on at all times, many times. So,
Miss English?
That was my concern too, because you're planning commission for Mountain House, right? And for Tracy, we already have approved and working on close to 3,000 because of Tracy Hills. And we have an Alice development with another 500 homes, and the senior assistant is another 500. So we're going to be hitting pretty close to 3,000 within the next, because the way the allotments are made in the next 3 years. And I know legally we're going by the census, and our attorney answered that question, but that was my concern too. I know we have to go with the census, but we also know what's in the plans that have been approved for the next 2 to 3 years. So
I have been asked to take a short break. We'll take a break now and return at 7:30.
Everybody gets to go pee.
I know what you're saying.
I guess. Who asked you? Who asked you? Your basement?
No, guy to the right.
Oh, I just.
There isn't an error. There is. I don't know how many people live there.
I'm going to pull it up. Right behind. Oh, actually, Manteca already passed us that.
It's like 1,200 people.
Talk about mediation. $11,000 home project.
The supervisor map. I was drawing from your experience. I don't know that area. There's also a big mortuary there, a big cemetery, and I don't think they're counting dead people. I don't think they're counting the dead people.
I know from the Ripon.
Come back and tell us.
Rippon's 16,000 and Murata is about.
So if you look at this population, Waterloo population, that's 16.
But those two, you're traveling south, and by the time you made that travel, you've got about just.
I literally have never been there. I'm Mexican. People live there. Maybe
You're so bad.
We do live more. Well, no, it is actually true. Culturally, it is true. We live more densely. Oh, it is true. It is true. Domestically, Latinos live more densely. It's possible. I don't know. I found it on the map, and I thought, I wonder if Pam knows about this area. Maybe it would go, oh yeah, there's a mobile home park that I've not really noted before. Because I typed it into Google, and I typed in Glenwood, San Joaquin County. The first hit was cemetery. The second hit.
Yes, but that was down in Manteca. That's where, when I put in.
Well, like, there's this spot here.
Nice now.
Oh, that's
Okay, so then
I don't know how we're going to get there.
there is one there.
That's it.
That's where I think there might be.
Out of the.
I got to walk.
Pardon?
We'll see, because I'm going to open it up to public comment here in a minute. And then we're going to, at the end, bring public comment up again. Okay. Well, and that's the thing, because I don't know how much time. It might be little changing to us, but when you're doing that on the computer, like.
I was shocked when you said it was a
I'm looking at the map. Everything down there, and I thought, there's a lot of people. Just like that.
Makes in one place is going to have repercussions on all the others.
Yes, and you're absolutely right, because if we do changes in 1, 2, and then I'm thinking, that's why I said about 4, about where we go. Because if we do enough, I would say take all of it. If you have enough up here, but if not, then you got to move the line out from Jacktown.
The only thing I will say is I really
Then
want
and then leave Lippin. Yeah,
I don't want us to even go into a conversation where we say, well, what if we split with it? I don't even want to.
No, I don't even want to do that.
I don't want to suggest.
I don't even want that as a
that we split a city to make it work.
No.
Yeah. This whole Ripon thing where like. Yeah, the cities should stay together. But I really do think that we have to put Murata up with Lodi as the school district. It would make.
Well, but the thing is, Lodi Unified comes down into Stockton for God's sake.
But at least Murata if we can.
So Murata.
That's a defensible
If you know people from Murata, they don't want to be with Stockton anyway. They would much rather be with Lodi.
Not just because of the school district.
Well, no, for other reasons.
That's why I'm still a fan of B. The B smooth. The B too smooth. I like it a lot. And I like that also
I like D better, and everybody seems to like D a lot, which is good. Oh, let's get busy.
Sorry about that. We'll come back to in session. What we're going to do right now, I am going to open up public comment because we've had a lot of items that we've gone through and had some great discussion. So I'm opening up public comment. Anyone wishing to address the commission, please come up and provide your name and so forth, and go from there. Anyone else that wishes to talk can line up right behind this gentleman.
My name is Paul Brennan. I live in District 4 currently. I just had a comment about the maps that were discussed this evening. I think there's been a good discussion in the last several meetings. Just overall comments, I believe that map D probably makes the most sense. It maintains the least amount of physical change to the districts and reinforces communities of interest. Arguably, the city of Manteca is now primarily an urban and skewing community-based city. I would say probably that's where the majority of those 50,000 people came from, or probably from the East Bay. You don't think so? Better suited for District 3 on the map rather than being included in the primarily ag-based area of District 4, unlike maps A2 and B2 presented this evening. Maps A2 and B2 would undo 40 years of work by the last 4 supervisors in District 4. In that time, the district has geographically remained unchanged and cohesive, relatively speaking. One could also argue that the only person maps A2 and B2 benefit would be the supervisor for D3, or District 3, while disenfranchising the voters currently in District 4, pushing off an election for the voters currently residing in District 4, which would result in the failure to give those voters a vote on whom their supervisor should be for another 3 years. Just some comments for the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other person, anyone else wish to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll bring it back up front. Any comments up here right now? Where's Chris? Oh, there he is.
So I was able to do many of the changes that discussed before. So if you put up the map, thank you. So I think going through this map, so we moved Country Club into 1 using Pershing. We moved District 2 north, not all the way across because the population is just too great. But now most of the northern border of District 2 is 8 Mile Road. But you can see what happens is that District 2 now is overpopulated by 5.6%. And the other thing we did was we put Murata using the 99 and also the area kind of this. You can see this black line is the Murata border according to the census block, but like a lot like Country Club area, this area also thinks of themselves as part of Murata as well, so that was included as well in District 4. But you can see the swaps make District 4 and the other thing, trying to get District 1 to 50% CVAP, I split Weston Ranch in half because of the population density of the Latino areas and moved it into District 3. So now District 1 is at under by 5.4%, but its CVAP still isn't above 50. It's at 49.63. So I think the hard part is there's not a dense Latino area for it to grow into, except if we kind of changed the Harding line through downtown, which I think is important, or has been pointed out and seemed to be something the commission wanted to do. We can't get it to over 50, even splitting Weston Ranch. And technically, this map wouldn't work, right? Because it's 11% total deviation. So we would have to figure out either a swap, putting more population, or actually really taking population out of 2, because District 1 at this point, this is kind of the floor. And so we would want to make sure our highest deviation was 4%. So we need to move, or 4.4%. We need to move at least 1.2% out of District 2 into another district. So I think those are the biggest changes, or our biggest constraints with these edits. I mean, one easy way, of course, would be to put more of Stockton back into District 4, maybe using 5 as the 8 Mile to 5, and pushing this back into 4. That would help balance probably the over deviation of 2 and the under deviation of 4 to some extent, and bring us under that 10% total.
Yes, I'm going to go to Mr. Oster.
Very brief comment. Thank you so much for doing this live during our meeting. As the person who raised the question about the 50%, I'd like to retract it from the purposes of this. As long as I would be very happy with this at 49.63 if that's where it ended, as it is an increase. I think that at least we can hang our hat on that, saying we made an effort to increase the CVAP in District 1 above the current of 48.7, I believe is the current in that similar district that we in our current map. Doesn't get over 50%, I'm not going to be distraught. I think these other issues that we're dealing with in terms of poise and the Murata issue, and obviously the total deviation to me are more important than perhaps a symbolic thing like hitting a magic number of 50. So please retract that from the list of
Mr. Mooney. Yeah, you split Weston Ranch, and that's splitting the community. That's not really good. And I don't know where your numbers there. You dropped 8,000 people from District 1.
Yeah.
Then like that messes up your whole deviation.
No, and that's and that splitting, right, was to try to get the CVAP to close to 50. So
as long as we stay above at 47.5 where we're at, aren't we pretty close to legal?
Yes. I mean, this is one of those.
I'm just.
This is.
I don't know where was the numbers before you started changing it. We're at 49, right?
It was at 49.5, I believe.
So why did we have to drop the?
Well, I was trying to get to 50, and I just wanted to do the illustration that with the changes with Country Club, you couldn't get there, right? You couldn't get to 50 with that population shift. And I think if we know we can't get to 50, I think I'd probably put Western Ranch back in whole. And that would fix our deviation, but I think it might drop our CVAP to like, well, I can do it right now.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, so that would move it to 48.94. So it'd be right under 49, but it would be above where it is currently. That also you can see adds or makes one now 2.3% over. So it's a lot smaller total deviation, and we've done all the other things, right? We've moved Murata up. We've used 8 Mile to a great extent as a northern border of District 2, and we've unified Country Club along to Pershing. So I think we've done 4 of the 5 things, or 3 of the 4 things, really. It's just that 50% number that we're not going to hit.
This includes the move to Pershing?
Yes. Yeah. Any other
questions on this side?
Here, let me color the district. I mean, sorry, I can't get it any bigger. But the numbers below are just the total, or the deviations for each district. You can still see that District 3 and 2 are the 2 poles, so it's 9.888% total deviation, so we're right under it. So if there's any changes that you'd like made, I think really you can see, again, it's all about Stockton. And I guess the other question is, if you, the thing I talked about briefly is you could back up the expansion of District 2 to include more of Stockton, and you could use I-5 and 8 Mile Road as the corner and move this portion over into District 4, and that would help balance the two. You would then, District 4 would be underpopulated by 0.5%, and District 2 would be overpopulated by 2%. So you'd create a more balanced plan. And zoom out so you can see.
Sybeck.
I would support that change that playing around with.
Reluctantly.
Can we just show that map back up? And I'm just curious about piece of Stockton that's in 3.
Too many damn people. Yeah. Still.
So this corner here,
that heavy populated area, or where, I'm assuming that it is.
Parts of it are.
Yeah.
for elementary school. Nancy Adams Elementary School are in this area.
Actually, there's a lot of population in that Murata.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Because you're
pretty
talking
dense.
Murata on the west side of 99, and that's all new development.
That is on the west side. Yes, it is. Thank you. Okay.
Is it possible to go back out again?
Oh, yeah. So it'd be like 6.5.
Yeah, Mountain House, River Islands, is that what's going on? Are they both together in this?
Yeah, Mountain House is right here.
Mountain House and River Islands, we got a ton of growth on both those areas.
So yeah, you still have that Lathrop, Tracy Mountain House connection.
Mr. Morrow, do you have your District 3 guy? I mean, District 3 is now moved over to, yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's the only one that's completely moved over, it seems like. doesn't have much recollection of where it was, because it was in the Delta Islands, it was in Brookside, and not quite Lincoln Village, but now we're kind of over. Anything you see there? I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. Mountain House and River Islands, you're talking about that high growth in the same area.
These are the current lines.
Well, it's completely different than the current lines, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because when you're going north like that, and you pull Broad out, then you Stockton. I mean, now you're back in the same boat again. You've got a supervisor that's he or she that's kind of bouncing all over the place, and that kind of takes away from that compact issue we had. I liked it a little bit more when it was D. I know that kind of changed it. I know they want to move Broad out, but it takes in a lot. What did it look like with Escalon? Big area, small population.
You have to run it. Wait, you can't get it with that ribbon.
Can't really do that.
Can't do it with that ribbon.
Not to interrupt, but I see one ag community there, frankly. I mean, I see Mountain House and I see River Islands eating up that whole Delta Island community and all that ag in there. And then can you go back out again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got 4. I mean, Antigua continues to grow. Possibly a lot of people from somewhere else. I mean, you're talking about one supervisor there, possibly.
Go ahead.
We've been assuming that the Lathrop River Islands area needs to be in the same district as Tracy and Mountain House. And I think, and your comments, Jim, got me thinking about that assumption. And perhaps it isn't the best of assumptions, because growth is happening and spreading throughout our county. It's not just going to be in this southwest corner of the county. And so a question I would pose to Steve and others who know the Manteca-Lathrop area well, perhaps we should concentrate District 3, or have District 3 embrace some of Lathrop, have a little bit less of what's north and maybe more of what's north that goes into District 4. And
It'd be just, you can't just.
And you're just getting larger.
Yeah, you're getting larger. You'll be splitting that up, and then you have.
We don't want to split up cities, right?
You have River Islands. I mean, I don't know if we want to consider that a city of, I mean, it's a community of interest, of course. But I don't know if, I mean, what would you do if you took Manteca and put River Islands there? It's under, I mean, that do anything for the, I don't know if that would do anything. At the end of 120.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just don't know.
Graphically, it's at the end of 120 off of 5. Accomplished. I hate to see us just go into Stockton for such a small piece.
Well, I think the issue is going to be if you want to split Lathrop, you can, but you're going to have to put population back into 5, right? And the only place for it to really go is you can go and split Manteca again, which I don't think you want to do. And the other option would be to taking part of Stockton into District 5, right? Because that's another population center. Or maybe doing a swap with French Camp, I guess, between 3 and 5. And I don't know, so basically moving this into 5 and then moving this in, right, into where, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where the 5.
You're not going to get much population out of that French Camp area.
Yeah, it's not.
Say, what's French Gap?
Not a lot.
I've been Googling it the whole.
Yeah, not a lot of people.
Leave it.
Roughly like 3,000 people in that block.
I'm surprised it's.
That's half of Escalon.
Yeah.
Getting down to, yeah, you're right.
But I think when you start thinking about moving population around, like if we wanted to keep Lathrop Hole and we wanted to move it into District 3, that would create a total map change, right? Total architecture change that we haven't. I think there was one map that did that, and that was map C, but that was kind of the map that we pushed aside, I guess, last cycle. We can always bring that back for discussion if you'd like. But a lot of the things that we've talked through aren't accomplished in that map.
Mr. Oster.
I just wanted to remind everyone of something that I think 2 or 3 meetings ago, one of the other commissioners said, which is Lathrop and the River Islands and that kind of commuter corridor. If we're talking about a community of interest, and it's the third criterion, I think there is something to be said about the shared interests as it relates to traffic and the people going over to the bay between what is in the current District 5 map and the fact that it's so close to dead on at only 0.35 over. I'd hate to see that broken up, considering that as a community of interest, the kind of commuters of the bay, whether we like it or not, that's a real thing, and that's a real group of people, and they're not, as our friend on the other side of this dais has pointed out, it's going to continue to grow.
And you're absolutely right, because in my view, you do not want to split River Island and Lathrop in any way.
No.
That's all has to be one. Grunsky.
Yeah, I would just, so if we're throwing District 5 and we're throwing all that ag, all that delta, the population is going to commuters, people that are moving here, which they're all more than welcome, but they're going to get, there's not a shared interest in the shared history of what that delta means and what that ag means. And so, you end up sacrificing a bit of that. And this is, things are just getting, put up and thrown up. And I would hate to see it just massive population. We love the money in the county and all that. We get our fees, but, there is a culture, and this is still an ag county for as many years. It might change in 10 years, but look, I just don't want to see us parceled off, just because people are moving here. And I don't mind separating things, but I understand the point, but I don't mind separating things. We're looking at, I would hate to see just the population taken into consideration. I know that's what we're doing. That's how we're doing things. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I have an alternative point of view. I know some of the River Islands people, and I know some of the Mountain House people, and they moved here from the Bay, and they are very concerned about the Delta. And one of the things when I saw this map, I was excited about, because those folks are concerned about the Delta. The Contra Costa people are, the East Bay people, all are concerned about the Delta. So I think that they might be a plus.
Very well could be. Very well could be. I think that's a fair point. Absolutely. Riparian rights and Delta Farm is not always the same as recreation, river islands and such. So, I think that's to be taken into consideration as well.
We can educate them too.
Well, a lot of it's environmental based too. That some of those people from over the other side of the hill think more about that than people over on this side. That's why they might care more about the Delta.
I know we still have a few minutes, but I want the consensus to move on to 8:15.
Sure. Good. Fine.
Okay. And we'll go from there. Might be 8:30.
So I'm just wondering if for Plan D, if there's any other map variations that you guys want to work through.
I do too.
So I'd like to ask a question. Is there a problem with the current state of map D with the 4 changes or however many changes you made from the people on committee. I saw Chris shake his head no, so from a,
Yeah.
So could you just expand it? Can we expand that map?
Fortunately, it's as large as I can make it, but we can go into closer detail if, like if you want to look at the districts.
Okay. No, then can you move it?
Yeah. You can see in District 5, so we've got Mountain House, Tracy, Lathrop, Hole, District 3, Manteca, French Camp, up to Waterloo, and then part of Stockton. In District 4, well, District 1, you can see we have Country Club, Hole, Harding as the line, and then Wilson, Weston Ranch, Hole within District 1, in the airport area. District 2 then is Northern Stockton, the northwest corner being all the way up to 8 Mile Road, following 5 down, and then across, with the remainder of Northern Stockton in District 4, with Lodi, Lockford, Victor, and then it wrapping around and picking up Ripon and Escalon.
Personally, when I looked at the maps and then I looked at it again and then I put it away and I came back and I looked at it again, and when I came back the third time I felt that this was the map that we should be looking at. First of all, it puts Lodi, Lockford, Linden, the farming communities all together. Commitment, it's like I've always said, you don't want to start talking about ag with your mouth full. That wasn't me who said that. That was somebody who a long time ago made that comment. And I think that we looked at a situation of putting the Delta get together, and I think that we looked at the majority of all those maps when you had 4 and 5 that were put together, and we're looking at protecting the Delta, which is a must. The 800-pound gorilla sits right in the middle, and that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with Stockton and its size, and you get the necessary splits that you have to get. Those are the things you have to work with. We realize that I know Mr. Brennan made the comment, was talking about the growth, and you felt that maybe Manteca was one of them. We've certainly had a lot of growth in Manteca, but you look at Tracy and Mountain House, a lot of significant growth has come from those areas. And I think at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and I have see Manteca as it being whole, and we've tried to do that with every city that's on this map, making sure that they are staying whole. Whether you're Ripon or you're Escalon or anything in between, that we've tried to keep everything together. And it's been said up here many times, the fact that when we're going to continue to realize what takes place over the next 10 years, growth is inevitable, and it's coming. It's where is it going to land? And then majority of that growth is going to take place in South County as we continue to see what's taking place. So, I'm for one, am very satisfied with this map, but now I think that the tweaking starts to begin. What do we do here? What do we move this line or that line or whatever? But this is, I think, has got to be our primary map that we're working with, because I'm listening to the people up and down the dais that are, commented, people in the audience, or that are looking at this. Very, very important. So I think that we probably should look at another alternative and say this is alternative 2. But I think this has got to be our primary map that we've got to focus on. That's Steve's opinion, and Mr. Moore went.
So, Chairman, are we looking for a motion to see if this is the map we want to work with?
I would prefer to put that in the form of a motion.
I'd be in favor of a motion to work with this map, but at the next meeting to tweak it as we need to, but to narrow it down so we can get something done. Otherwise, we may never come to a conclusion prior to the meeting. So we'd accept this map to work with beginning today till the next meeting.
Second.
A second.
Properly moved and seconded. Second, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Okay. So, yes.
I'd like to make a motion suggested that we consider a second alternative map.
Yes.
I'd actually like to make the motion that we not consider a second alternative map, because I think that would distract us too much. And I think that's what you meant.
That's what I meant, to go with this map only.
Okay, I'll second that too.
Okay. And that's great, and we can do that. I just, before we go on to the vote, when I make the presentation on the 10th, the Board of Directors, or I should say the Board of Supervisors, is going to look at that, and they could tear this map in every which way that you can imagine. Yep. And that's fine. We've done what we've been asked to do to put that together. So there is a motion on the floor that we do not have, and a second to not have any other map, and we present this map only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
Aye.
Aye. We have, is that, do we have that unanimous, or do we have a no? Okay, very good. So, now this is the map we're going to work with.
I would like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We keep splitting it this way, that way. I don't think the maps currently take anything near consideration to the different communities of interest. Growing up there, children of seventh generation, we're going to have to, or we just focus more on that on the next map. I don't know how anyone else feels from Stockton, but I just don't think we focus enough. We're like, oh, it's too big. Hey, let's just split it. Okay, well, that's great. Let's split it the right way if we're going to do that. We're fine-tuning it next time. Let's spend a lot of time and focus on that. There hasn't been near enough time for the size of the city that it is, and we're going to do a big disservice if we don't focus a good amount of time. And some of it will be, it's not going to be controversial, but I think a lot of people that have grown up here will really appreciate the time that we take. Really look into that. So I don't know if we need another meeting, but we do need to spend a lot of time fine-tuning this and those districts that split Stockton up. So I don't know if we could make that a special item, or you tell me.
That'll go into the next meeting, because there will not be another meeting after that, right? That's what I've been told, right?
Now, can the supervisors throw it back to us and we have to do something with it, or what do they do?
So once the chair presents, Chair DeBrum presents, then it's in the hands of the Board of Supervisors.
They say no, what happens?
So they will work with it, and they can make any amendments to the map they deem necessary.
Well, we spent a lot of time for that, on all that, for them to just take the crown out, huh? How about that?
That's what I'm telling you.
I would have shown up to less. There we go.
I doubt that they'll do that.
Yes, sir.
Hope they don't.
Mr. Oster.
Mr. Chafee, relative to the question that the Commissioner just raised, Grunsky raised about making tweaks to Stockton, I just want to, in my thinking over the next 2 weeks before we get to those changes in the next meeting, because of the VRA requirement in District 1, could you now ad hoc give us any kind of indication of your perception of what is the realm of changes that could be made, given that you have to start with the requirements the VRA requires that we do it, so does Fair Maps, that we have to have that District 1 kind of look a certain way. How much wiggle room do we have, is the question.
So I think, can you put my screen?
I agree. We need to do some more.
Yeah.
So just give me a second. So you can see.
No, we can't. We can't see it.
You can't see if my computer's not working. Famous last words. So Stockton here is in this this rose color, and the line of District 2 is brown. Maybe I should make that a different color so it's easy. So I think really what's in play is this cut here between District 2, District 4 in the northern part, and then in District 3 along the northeast. It's not locked in, but I think with District 1 at 48.96, I don't think we want to change its configuration too much. We're using Harding, we've got Country Club Hole, and it has the port hole, has Western Ranch, goes down, takes in the airport. So I feel like District 1 is nearly locked. I don't want to say it's fully locked, but it's 90%. So I think it's really this line, the line between 2 and 3 on the east side, and then the northern border between 2 and 4. Those are, I think, really what's at play within the city of Stockton and in these 3 districts.
So it's I'm looking right now, District 3 is in white.
Well, actually, the cities or the cities in the census designated places are colored. The only lines of the districts are the black lines.
Okay. So right where you're at right now?
Yeah, this is unincorporated county.
That's unincorporated.
But in District 3.
In District 3.
Yeah.
But that's in Stockton? Well, it's just right below Murata. Is that?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like this line here that I'm tracing. So Stockton's in rose, this rose color. This line between 2 and 3, this is the border currently. And that's what I think we can talk about changing.
Gotcha.
And then this line along here between 2 and 4, this northern strip here, we can talk about changing that too. And I think you can see, and I don't know if District 3 is underpopulated, so it has to take in more of Stockton. It could, I guess, you could take a little bit out because it's only at 6%. So you could move the line and make 3 more underpopulated. But if you were trying to balance, right, 3 would grow, 2 would shrink.
Would you grow 3 with Escalon, give Stockton?
So you could do like a 3 or 4 way swap, right? But then you start getting into what cities do you want to switch, right? So if you move Escalon over or Ripon over, we can get into it and we can look at like the shifts you'd have to do.
I'm just thinking out loud the fact that if we move over to Escalon, then somewhere along the line there's going to be an island.
Yeah, no, I think you would have to make everything contiguous, of course, but right. So this is where the shifts are not as easy.
Correct. Ms. Ibeck.
So I think that our fundamental challenge with the city of Stockton is that it's so large that if we recognize that our average size of the districts, each district should be about 155,000 people, and Stockton itself is at 322,000. So we can't just split Stockton in two separate districts. Stockton will have to have some spreading out into neighboring districts. And that's the challenge, because we know that they won't necessarily be as integrated into the issues facing the other districts, but we don't have a choice at this point.
The growth will come from the east. I mean, it will come from Murad area, and I mean, just from general plan, you're never going to be able to build on Chima track over there in the West District, west of I-5, most likely. So there's no population growth there. Again, the I-5, the west of I-5 should be possible partitioned off. That should be in some type of either some shared interest of levies, ag. I don't know. Stockton, it seems very disjointed right now, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe it's just.
By the way, my screen is not showing anything. I'm truly in the dark here.
I'm not saying anything.
Oh, thank you. I forgot about that. Thank you for the technical solution. I appreciate that.
Do we have any other questions up here? Any questions from anyone?
I think when you split like he says, at west of I-5, but basically the Stockton right now, the way it's split, going west of I-5 is basically just covering all the residential. It's not really covering all ag. It's pretty much stopping. When you go into the ag areas, they fall into District 5. I'm not, pretty good split to me. Stockton, I don't know.
Well, I guess my point is the growth will come from the east over there, Murata and such, so it's skew that way. There's nothing that's going to be approved in a flood zone, the floodplain.
So any growth would just, on the east side, is just going to help District 3 gain more.
Correct.
It needs between that growth in the Murata area, or that east area, and the growth that 3 would have in the Tracy area would be beneficial.
Beneficial as far as population growth, or?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, or is your question answered? Okay, any other questions? With consensus, we'll move to 8:30. But at this point in time, I am going to ask for any public comment, opening back up public comment. Anyone in the audience wish to address the commission? Seeing none, will commissioners have any comments? Maybe we're not going to go to 8:30. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And it's been properly moved and second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.